Greetings, I present to you the SMK, the Sentinel's Marvellous Kaleidoscope, on CFRU 93.3 FM in Guelph, Ontario, through the web on CFRU.ca, and syndicating across Canada. I am your guardian overseer, Nicholas Cooper. We will be looking inward and beyond along the branches of progressive, fusion, and alternative genres, a natural, charming anomaly, and other unique discoveries near and far. Join me as we gaze into the audible lens out at the diverse musical landscape on the ever-changing horizon.
Love was like a pleasant dream. I never needed none to believe in, but you look so easy now. If you ever needed me, I guess that I'll find something in a feeling. But love is deceiving, so I'll come out screaming now. I keep feeling low, loneliness. I keep feeling low. I keep feeling low, loneliness. Never needed none to believe in. Oh no, lay beside me while I sleep. I need someone to hold me when I'm dreaming, 'cause I can't unsee things now. I keep feeling low, loneliness. I keep feeling low. I keep feeling low, loneliness. Never needed none to believe in. Oh no, I never needed nothing to believe. What is the world coming to? It's coming for ya. It's coming for ya. What is the world coming to? It's coming for ya. It's coming for you. Looks so easy now. Ooh, but it's hard. You come out screaming now. Could I give up being free when freedom is the only thing I'm missing? Deny who I'm kissing now. I keep feeling low, loneliness. I keep feeling low. I keep feeling low. I'm depressed. Never needed none to believe in. Oh no, I never needed nothing to believe. What is the world coming to? It's coming for ya. It's coming for ya. What is the world coming to? It's coming for ya. It's coming for you. Looks so easy now. Ooh, but it's hard. You come out screaming now. Keep feeling loneliness. I keep feeling low, 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 low. I keep feeling low, loneliness. I never needed nothing to believe in, but I guess that I'll find something in feeling, 'cause a life can't carry on without meaning. No, no. Oh, I never needed nothing until my eyes were open to the danger, until the war that broke my heart forever. But my heart, never my mind, before I take a chance and trust a stranger. Prepare me for a score, a stormy weather, drowning here in all my fear. It's so easy now, but it's hard. You'll come out screaming, na 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 na. Oh, yeah. What is the world coming to? It's coming for ya, it's coming for ya. What is the world coming to? It's coming for ya, it's coming for you. What is the world coming to? It's coming for ya, it's coming for you. What is the world coming to? It's coming for ya, it's coming for you.
Welcome, everyone. I'm here. We've had some time issues because we are doing international call here with my guest here. Why don't you introduce yourself to our good centuries?
Sure. Hi, I'm That Joe Payne, coming to you from Northampton in the UK, and it is about 8:30 in the evening here, and it's still very light, and I'm sitting in my garden, which is also a pub garden. Ta-da!
Oh, that's nice. What do you have in the garden? What flowers and stuff?
Oh yeah, there's lots of plants because the pub has been closed for so long. We started replacing all the flowers with other things like tomato plants and anything that we can harvest food with. So you got plants of all sorts, like just tomatoes, carrots are growing some sunflowers for the seeds. So it's become a little project.
A little farm you got there.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, yeah, and just to give everyone also reference, for me, it's about 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we actually got a little mixed up with the time zones, but I'm glad that we were able to figure it out.
We got there in the end.
Yeah. I guess right off the bat, you probably have been asked this a whole bunch. Why do you have that as in your artist name for That Joe Payne?
Well, I mean, I think if you listen to the album, the answer is very much in the title track, By Name by Nature. The lyrics for that, it's kind of coming more from the third person rather than from me. It's this kind of feeling that I had when I was at my worst with my anxiety and my depression, of feeling that everyone was kind of pointing at me and saying, "That Joe Payne," but in a very derogatory way of you're here to ruin everything. That Joe Payne's going to ruin your life, you know. And I think in the UK there is kind of it's a dialect thing. If someone's talking about somebody in a negative way, they'll be like, "Oh, that blah blah," or whatever. So you can say like, "That Emma Jones," or that David Tucker. You know, you'd say that kind of thing. So it kind of led from there, and actually the song came first, and that's something that I haven't really been able to explain to people until now, because the song hadn't been released until now. So yeah, it started with the song, and I thought, actually, you know what? that's actually the identity I'd like to move forward with. I feel like I've really turned it on its head now as well with how I put myself out there. I put myself out there as being a very kind of theatrical and showman-like performer. And so if you look at my logo and everything, it's that kind of Las Vegas sign, shining bright. It's kind of like, it's almost as if I was like trying to suggest I was a star in the way that like a magician would be calling themselves like the great something or whatever. You know, it kind of comes down to that really. So it started off as a bit of a poke at myself, and it's turned into something else now. And I guess it's something that you could really find any meaning in you liked.
Yeah, like I've been listening to your music, well, since you started your solo career, and I think now, like, or the By Name by Nature song was just released, I think, a week ago. Is that correct?
I think it's 2 weeks on Friday, I think.
Yeah, and then, like, yeah, the way you describe it shows that the negative part, but you've certainly turned it on to be a more, like, empowering persona.
Absolutely. You know, because I want to be. It might have started as this negative thing, but at the end of the day, like I aspire to become like that Joe Payne who is capable of that. You know, that I can do more than people expected me. So yeah, that's a great way of putting it. That it's become this empowering thing for me, because that's absolutely right.
Yeah, before we go into more of your the music and your background, well, as you know, like the world is in a COVID-19 pandemic. For our side, there's lots in Canada, like the perspective there, but maybe you can tell us how it is in the UK. Like how are you coping, and how's the country getting through this?
Well, they've just announced today. Boris Johnson's just announced the next step, which kind of brings. I don't want to say that it's no longer a crisis, but it's kind of reached that point now where things are going to be relaxed back to the point of almost complete normality, which is exciting for everybody, because certainly people in my position who need to be going out and performing. You know, it feels now like we're only one step away from being able to return to gig venues and to theatres. So that's great. So it's come as quite a positive thing today. Okay, we're still not 100% there, but the fact that we know in a couple of weeks' time we're going to be able to go back into pubs, we're going to be able to, you know, do things that we haven't been able to do for ages. Like I know some people are looking forward to going back to church. I'm not a churchgoer, but I'm sure it's important to some people. So yeah, so I think it's getting better here. You know, everyone's kind of got used to the way things are. I think people adapted a lot more quickly than they maybe thought they were, because of course it was a huge change for people. But yeah, I mean, the morale's been good. People have, you know, everyone knows what their responsibility is, and they're willing to do their part. You know, people have been really, really sensible and thoughtful to each other. So it's brought out some of the best in people's characters, I think.
Well, it's wonderful to hear. Like I know for a lot in Canada, there's lots of talk of, I don't know if it's the same in the UK, but support for like venues and musicians is well the hardest struck. And there's already been announcements, like I know from like the DIY venues that are closing because they can't support themselves.
Yeah.
Do you Have you heard any of that on your side of the water?
Um, I mean, so far, I don't think any of the venues that I am kind of affiliated with that I perform at um, have actually been forced into closure. I know they've all found it very hard. Um, a lot of places, in particular theatres, have been given kind of government grants and things to keep them kind of alive. I know it's not been the same for all businesses though. Like so some theatres were kind of on the brink of collapse anyway, and this was kind of the thing that pushed them over the edge, which is really sad. But no one that I've kind of been involved with has been particularly affected by it, which I'm pleased to say. But then when it comes to gig venues, quite often they are a pub or a bar as well as a venue. So you know, their line of support has not necessarily been as obvious a one. And I know that landlords and rates and everything have demanded the same expectation when it comes to rent being paid, but that's not really fair when someone can't bring in business. So it's been a tricky one for them, I think, and I'm glad that, you know, I mean, I think of myself as one of the lucky ones, really, because, you know, although I have been kind of forced to stop working in the traditional sense, you know, I'm not. It's not going to stop me. I'm a individual, being an independent musician, and you know, I will resume when I can.
Awesome. Yeah, like, well, a lot of what you're doing right now has been leading up to your first full-length album, so you're still busy with that, even through all this.
Keeping me very busy.
Yeah,
that's keeping me really busy. I like to do as much of it as I can myself, so I've been trying to handle my own PR. So that certainly is something to keep on top of, because there's just a lot of relationships you have to build, and you know, it's been great though, because I've found myself forming connections with people in the press and bloggers and presenters like yourself. You know, there's all these new relationships forming that I haven't had in the past, and it's lovely, because I feel like I'm creating a whole new network, which is just great.
Yeah, and with this time, you have to get innovative of how to make that network and sustain
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just
but then sorry, I was going to say, like my oh, sorry.
You go.
I think there's a bit of a time lapse. But yeah, I think it's lovely. Like my fan base really came out in support when the lockdown started, and a lot more people joined up to my Patreon service, which is you know, really, really helped me to survive, really. So that plus the release, it's just meant that I've been able to really support what I'm doing without needing to rely as much on the live performances. And I mean, like merch sales, for example, like I wouldn't normally sell anything unless I was doing a show. So you know, people have really come out in support, and you know, hugely grateful for that. So yeah. Anyway, I totally interrupted you then, so please do finish what you were going to say.
That's quite all right. I think I was going to say that no, I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Okay.
It's all good though. I guess I was going to also ask, as well as working on your PR for the new album, have you, with the pandemic, have you done anything different or out of the box that you wouldn't have thought of doing if things were normal?
Yeah. So one thing was I got contacted by someone asking about singing lessons, and I've never really taught singing lessons before. I've dabbled a little bit in the past, but I certainly wouldn't have ever considered myself to be a natural teacher. So, in order to feel like I wasn't, a complete fraud when it comes to being a vocal coach, I've actually studied so much about vocal anatomy and like learning lots of new exercises that I can apply for anyone that wants to be taught by me. And it's been a bit odd because I've been doing these coaching sessions through Skype, because you can't do them one-on-one. And obviously, like the ideal scenario would be to be in the same room as somebody, so that you can really kind of pay lots of attention to their posture and the way they stand. But it's been a real learning curve for me, because I've just gone, you know what, I'm gonna read some books. and I'm not a reader at all. I hardly ever read. So I've definitely read more during this lockdown. I think I've learned more during this lockdown than I've ever learned when it comes to the science of what I do. So that's been really cool. So that's been my new thing.
Well, that's quite wonderful. It's good to get some reading in. And yeah, I've actually myself, I've always been on the line of seeing if I could teach clarinet, because that's my bass clarinet is my go-to instrument.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Well, they say the iwi, the electric wind instrument that I play, that's got the same string as a clarinet, apparently. Not that I can play clarinet.
Oh, nice.
I don't think it would go very well if I tried playing a clarinet. I have a really ridiculous memory from being a child, and I must have only been about 5 years old or something, and there was this lady that used to kind of pick me up from school, and I'd go back to hers for dinner, and then my parents would come and pick me up later in the day after work. And one of the other children that she looked after, he had a saxophone. And I remember him inviting me to try his saxophone, and I blew into it, and I couldn't, just completely out of my control, I just poured the contents of my nose out and down myself and all over this saxophone.
Oh, gee.
I know it's a little bit of a graphic story, but I mean, there's a bit of imagery for you anyway.
No, that's never happened to me, and I've never heard that happen to anyone else before.
I'm pleased it's never happened to you.
Actually, because you mentioned it, and I totally forgot that you did play the iwi. Why don't you tell everyone quickly what that instrument is?
Oh, so it's essentially an electronic clarinet. It's got the same fingering, but it's touch sensitive keys instead of actual like triggers. And you can adjust your own pressure settings. You can plug MIDI into it, so you can play any sound you like. When I first started playing it was with my old band the Enid, and they were very orchestral. So we would kind of load in all the sounds for anything in the orchestra. So then if there was a lead line in the instrumental music, I could just pick it up and be like, right, I'm going to play the lead flute part now, or I'm going to play the lead brass part now. So I could just dive in with anything and use it for that. These days, I don't really need to use it as much anymore, because most of what I do is vocal led. But I do find the odd occasion to get it out. So like in my current set, there's a song called Capture Light, which was by a guy called John Holden, whose records I've been featuring on over the last couple of years. And his song Capture Light has a lot of instrumental moments which involve a lot of flute. So I get it out for those.
Oh, that's great. Well, you should definitely try and get more EWI in your music if you do decide.
Yeah.
Preferably like clarinet textures.
Yeah. Well, you should hear the sounds that come as the presets on the Wii itself. They're absolutely ridiculous. They're absolutely ridiculous, and if you heard them, you'd think, what on earth would you possibly want to use those for? But I think that possibly, if no one's ever used them before, maybe I should use them first.
Well, maybe it'll make your songs very special.
Yeah, maybe make them a bit more unique. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, that's up to you guys.
Why don't we go now into, I guess, your background in music and growing up, because actually, I'll mention that it was around this time I had my Pride 2020 broadcast, which I featured one of your songs on.
Thank you. Happy Pride Month, by the way.
Yes, thank you. Happy Pride as well. And I said in that broadcast that you were a brightening LGBTQ2SQ plus representation for prog rock, which has been, like, as far as I know, it's mainly hetero dominated style, despite some androgynous characters throughout. So why don't you tell us about your music background and how your gay sexuality comes up with prog?
Okay. I mean, I don't really want to have to say that, that the music scene is homophobic, because I don't think that would be fair. But I do think that there's kind of a pressure to blend and to fit in with things. Certainly, as I was kind of up and coming, I would maybe occasionally try and be a bit more flamboyant, but I would always and it's difficult to prove because it was more of a sense that I had. And if it was more of a sense that I had, maybe that came from more of a kind of internalized homophobia that was within me, rather than from external factors that were around me at the time. I just don't really know. But certainly for years, I would I learnt to refine my performance to be less and less camp. I would refine my dress sense to be less and less flamboyant and colourful. So, I mean, by the time I finished with my last project, The Enid, I was just wearing black, and I would go on stage and I would do as well. I mean, I would do big things in the audiovisual side with like interactions with a screen and everything. But when it came to me kind of standing at the front of the stage, there wouldn't be any kind of like wild factor. I'd be very, very reined in and just stick to my spot by my mic stand and just try and kind of like tone everything down a bit. So my journey as a solo artist now, I've kind of been learning to re-embrace that more colourful side of myself. And of course, like as the years go by, people just generally in society have become more and more accepting of people that are different, and that's great. So I've found myself, for whatever reason, whether it was just something that was in my head or whether it was something that was a real part of attitudes around me, one way or another, I have embraced that colourful side of myself. I've become more camp and flamboyant again, and I'm really not taking any prisoners when it comes to just expressing myself. So, yeah, like I've really gone into detail in my album. Well, from my point of view, I've gone to detail, but for other people, it's open to interpretation. Hear whatever you want in my music. But yeah, the gay has definitely come out through this record, and there's a lot of references to my sexuality in the album.
Well, congratulations on that. And like, it's from what I've been hearing and reading for the past few years, it's been a struggle and a journey to this point in time. Part of that also comes with mental health. Do you mind talking about that? Because that was
yeah, more than happy to talk about that. I think it's really, really important that anyone that can talk about it does, just because that lessens the stigma. We're able to set an example to other people that they're not alone if they are going for anything. So yes, 100%. Any chance to talk about mental health, I will take it. So I guess, shall I just go back to where my story began with when I realized that I was not very well?
Sure.
Go back to that?
Sure. Yeah? I'm only like, in these interviews, I'm only starting to bringing up artists to talk about serious stuff. So I guess wherever you feel comfortable.
Okay. Well, anyway, so in 2016, I had a mental breakdown, and it was a really big, dramatic thing for me. I ended up losing almost everything in my life in order to survive, really. So my choices were stay doing what I was doing, living with the people I was living with, working with the people I was working with, and just making myself more sick, or drawing a line under it all for the sake of getting better. And that's what I did. So I left my band, but by leaving my band, it meant I had to leave my businesses behind. I almost ended up having to sacrifice my relationship over it as well. It almost meant losing my dog as well. So I had to leave my home behind, leave my businesses behind, leave the people that I thought were my best friends behind. And it was kind of like leaving a family almost. So it was really tough, because all of a sudden I had no career. All of my kind of work that I had to show for it seemed to just kind of fizzle out, and I just ended up this kind of numb person on antidepressants, working in a pub, just trying to kind of put myself back on my feet. And it took a couple of years to get started again in the music business at all. And it's taken me another 2 years then to get to this point where I was ready to release my first album. But here we are, and I can tell you now I'm happier than I've ever been. And if I was going to offer anyone any advice, it would be just to do what makes you happy. If it doesn't make you happy, don't do it. And it's really as simple as that.
Yeah, I think, hearing it from someone who's gone through it really helps. And because, like, you can read it yourself, but you might not even believe it yourself. But thank you for sharing that part. Like, it must have been, traumatizing and very, what would I say? Hard to build everything up again.
Yeah, I mean, I really fell from a high place with it all. I mean, I was at the time when everything came to a grinding halt. I'd been voted best male vocalist in Prog magazine for 2 years running. I had we'd been the only band to be invited back to H4H Prog, which is the biggest progressive rock festival in the UK. We'd be the only band to be invited back for 5 consecutive years. We were really, really making a name for ourselves, and I was really making a name for myself as a singer as well. Not just with the band, but as a name for myself, which I think everyone that I was working with could really see that was happening. It was a huge shock to kind of go from performing to hundreds of people every night to suddenly just working in a pub in my own town and nobody actually locally knowing who I was, and kind of if they asked me what I did before, I'd kind of say, well, I'm a musician and I've toured all over the world, and I've sold all these records, and they kind of go, oh yeah, right. And they wouldn't believe you, and and absolutely devastated because you can't prove it. But that was just but that's all in the past now.
Yeah, like it is. Do you see it also like a detour from the success you kind of had then, but to the one you have now, or about to have now?
I think everybody has to go through these kind of challenges to. I think it, like in one sense, it kind of sorts the wheat from the chaff a bit. If the people that fight the longest are the ones that get somewhere just by putting more of the time in and like just showing everyone how important it is to them. I definitely feel that I can say that for myself. I've really put the time in. I've really stuck at it. Despite I've had plenty of people very close to me telling me that I should try something else, maybe do something different, get a real job. give up on this dream that is just a dream. And maybe to most people it is a dream, but to me it's my life. It's what I live for. I have to do this.
Your passion.
So no matter what the world throws at me, I'm always gonna come back stronger because I have to.
The thing about you is you're a mess. You think you understand me, I'll make you undress. And the thing about you is no one would believe somebody who is younger, somebody so naive. The thing about you is everything you say is part of my agenda to make the world gay. And the thing about you is you don't have a voice, so let me say it for you.
I can see you standing there waiting for somebody else to blow. I'm at the top of my game now, baby. No. Let the truth of it all isn't what we see. Loneliness comes with disease. I wanna be there when nobody's waiting for me.
That Joe Payne will be no good to ya. He's a pain by name and a pain by nature. Oh, that Joe Payne is gonna ruin your life. 'Cause he's a pain by name by nature.
The thing about you is you can't do this alone. You need me more than water. I taught you everything you know. And the thing about me is I'm the one and only boss. So you better suck it up now.
I can see you standing there waiting for somebody else to blow. I'm at the top of my game now, baby. No. And the truth of it all isn't what we see. Loneliness comes with disease. I wanna be there when nobody's waiting for me.
Joe Payne will be no good to you. That Joe Payne gonna ruin your life. That Joe Payne is a real bad loser. That Joe Payne will keep you up all night. That Joe Payne only wants to use you. That Joe Payne will fight. He's a pain, that Joe Payne will be no good to you. Is a pain by name and a pain by nature. Oh, that Joe Payne gonna ruin your life. 'Cause he's a pain by name, by nature. Alright, that Joe Payne is a pain by name. Oh, that Joe Payne gonna ruin your life. 'Cause he's a pain by name, by nature. Alright, yes, he's a pain by name, by nature. Alright, if you fall on the floor, he doesn't know why. When the beat kicks in, hope you're falling on time. 'Cause he's a pain by name, by nature. Alright. 1, 2, 3.
Wait, I wanna dance in 7, 8.
He's a pain by name, by nature. Alright.
Wonderful. I guess speaking of music, why don't we start talking about your music and how it's been, how you've created it in your own special way. I actually have, I don't know if you've noticed, I have your albums here that I ordered. So for everyone to see, it'll be backwards, but yeah. I got your first, I guess, debut album record, I Need a Change, as well as What Is the World Coming To? And I don't, if anyone for that record, if anyone doesn't know that you're gay, I don't know what will. But I think, yeah, that album cover is brilliant, like, and strong. I really like it.
We took that picture on my roof. We climbed on my roof and took the picture there. So we got the blue sky behind us.
Awesome. So, why don't we start our, like, a journey from the first record up to the current one? I was like, your song "I Need a Change" was powerful for me, particularly because I reached out to you around that time when I came out as gay last year, and that song, like, spoke to me in that way, like, needing to not hide that self of myself anymore, and change that for myself.
Yeah. I think ultimately, in order to be happy, we have to know that we are at least in control of our own lives. And if that means making some changes, then that's what we have to do. And those changes are scary. We're all scared of change. It's just human nature to be frightened of what's new and different for us. But those changes are also going to be that huge positive thing that allows us to take a new step, that allows us to move forward as people, and in anything that we do. So we have to make changes, but it's not easy to instigate that. It's not easy to believe in ourselves to do it, and it takes either a huge amount of confidence or a huge amount of need. Like, we might not have a choice. It might be like, right, I either make this change now. Like, for me, I was like, I need to make these changes now, or I'm going to not be here tomorrow. that was what it boiled down to for me. So I think we know when we need to do something, and I'm glad that that's had a positive impact on you by hearing it, that it helps you to make some positive changes of your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's still a journey for me for being that, expressing that side for myself. I guess going on a tangent here. When did you figure out that you were gay?
I don't know. I think I always knew I was. I don't think I was always honest with myself about that. I certainly had some girlfriends as a teenager. When I came out on my 18th birthday, that I came out as bisexual, and I was pretty, sure that I was bisexual. And I think it's confusing when you're really young. It's another factor to consider. When you're really young, you're very hormonal. You're very, very influenced by your society. It's a really confusing time. So although I think I knew I probably was gay, I had enough reasons to also think, well, am I 100% gay? Maybe I'm a bit bisexual. And so, I was bi for the first kind of 4 years of my adult life. But to be honest with you, I only actually had boyfriends in that time anyway. I was so confused by it all that was how I identified at the time. And about the age of 22, which is when I met Max Reed, who's my partner and also the co-producer of this album, and he was also in the Enid with me. It was meeting him, and when he and I started to date, that was the moment when I went, okay, yeah, I'm ready to say it now, I'm gay.
You and Max are a great couple, by the way.
Thank you. I think so too.
Yeah, seeing all the pictures you share, it's quite lovely.
He's the better half than I am. I'm lucky to have him. He's a great guy.
So for most of the records you've already released are going to be appearing on the full-length album. Have these songs have you been composing them and producing them for quite a while now?
Yeah, I mean, the process of getting this album finished has taken about 2.5 years. And I think the main reason for the length of time that it's taken has been because I had to really build up confidence in myself about what I was really capable of as a songwriter. So I had to kind of really fight doubts in myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had to kind of put out a few singles to kind of get an idea of what people's responses were going to be like. I think every time I put a single out, I kind of assumed that people were going to hate it, and I didn't believe that it was going to be well received. But then it was well received, and then I was able to kind of build up my self-esteem more with every release. And so it's taken a lot longer than I thought it would take. But I'm glad I got there in the end, and I think the journey I went on creating it has actually set me up now for having a much easier time of producing music in the future, because now I know what my process is as a writer. I know that I have an audience out there who like everything I do, despite the fact that it's so eclectic. I know that there are people that trust my judgment when it comes to what I produce, which is fantastic. So I feel really positive now about moving forward. I've already got started on the next album. I feel like it's better to take risks than to play it safe. And it's a great feeling. I've got the album here actually. I thought just in case people need to see what it looks like, here it is.
Uh,
How about that? There we are. Have a look at that. There we are.
incredible. Yeah, so nice. Yeah, I was gonna say self-doubt is so bloody evil.
Yeah.
You mentioned you have an eclectic style, which is totally true based on the songs you've already released, and you have actually a few covers of like classical music on these past ones. Do you want to talk about how you would describe your music and the styles you are influenced by and the artists you look up to?
Yeah, sure. So I think growing up, certainly as a teenager, I really kind of delved into my dad's old record collection, which by that point was no longer records. It was more like CD compilations of greatest hits from his favorite artists, because he had the records, but they were sort of like stashed away, and the record player, once it stopped working, there was no point in replacing it, you know. So we had all these kind of compilation albums, and he had a lot of like he had in particular, the thing that I really was drawn to was Queen and David Bowie. And then I also discovered like War of the Worlds was one of my favorite records growing up. And then I was also really into Kate Bush and Peter Gabriel.
All great artists.
Thank you. Yeah, they really are. And I think it's kind of the pop progressive crossover acts. They're the ones for me that I really draw from, that I think really influenced me. And I think that's why I have such a progressive pop style. Because it wasn't really the prog rock thing that I was interested in. It was much more. I had much more of an interest in songs, in much more of the traditional sense. But I loved anything that took you on a bit of a journey and had a lot of color, and really went somewhere and had really great compositional value. And as a child, I was classically trained. So I really, really appreciated great harmony and great melody, and that's something that I've always listened out for and really try and approach my own songwriting with.
Yeah, those are like all the style or the elements that I guess originally created prog in the first place, and yeah, like that. The latest piece, By Name by Nature, really shows the more pop side, and I would also say like theatrical element to the music as well, because
Absolutely.
I think I read that you have a theater background as well.
A bit of a theatre background. Yeah, I mean, I actually wanted to be an actor originally.
Oh, really?
And that was my original plan. It didn't work out. I was going to study acting at university, and then I had to drop out and come home for reasons to do. Well, it's personal reasons, but I had to come home to take care of something, and I needed to stay creative somehow. So I turned to music for that. And to be honest with you, my whole life, I was under a lot of pressure to go into musical theatre, because I'd always grown up on the stage, and I was always cast in musicals because I could sing. That was the main reason why, because they just wanted me for my voice, I guess. But I really, really wanted to challenge myself as an actor and become more of a serious actor. And I did love to sing, but I wanted to. I always felt that my choice would be to either become an actor or to become like a pop star. and like join a boy band or something. But I didn't ever imagine myself. I never saw myself going into musical theatre, and to be honest with you, like it's something that I would enjoy doing now and dabble in now if the opportunity came up. But it's not something that would satisfy me in the same way as doing something that is more kind of like personally creative. You know, I think if I'd gone into acting, I'd have moved on to script writing, and it's the same with music. You know, I started as a singer, and it turned much more into the process of becoming a songwriter and becoming a producer. That's the thing that's become important to me, is to be able to create and to be able to not stay in one place for too long, to be able to live in the now and then move forward into the next stage and do something new and learn from what you've learned. Well, learn from what you've learned, learn from what you do, and just apply that to the next thing and watch yourself grow and fly, you know?
I've read in like from articles and reviews that some of that theater aspect has been added to your live performances, which I think one of them is like being able to float or something. Do you want to quickly talk about that?
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, I did do that once. So I'm an assistant for a magician called Simon Drake. And he used to have his own TV show in the UK called Secret Cabaret. And I'm still his assistant now. I've been working with him for years. Before I became his assistant, he was actually a fan of the Enid and agreed to come and help us kind of direct the Enid shows when we started to make that more of an audiovisual production. So he gave me a lot of direction as to how to present myself in a kind of stronger way. So I learned a lot from him, and we're still working together now. So I'm now his assistant in his show, and he has his own magic venue in London. And I go down to London for his shows, and I'm his assistant. So he's got all sorts of amazing built-in things going on all around the venue. It's a really amazing place. So he said, why don't you come and do a show here? Which was 2019. No, it wasn't. No, sorry, it was the end of 2018. So I did 2 nights in his House of Magic. And in that show, I did a vanish. I levitated. I had my head chopped off. And it felt like a really great, like unique little thing, because it was only small. It was only small audiences. I could only perform to up to like 100 people in there because it's a small venue. So, but it was a lovely, intimate, really special thing. So I've done a bit of that with him, and I've tried to apply what I've learned from him into everything I do now. So my tour this year, which has sadly had to be rescheduled or cancelled depending on the dates, it's that had loads of work put into it, and we were working with like the audio visuals again, where I was doing lots of interactions with a giant LED video screen, which is like 6 meters wide by 4 meters deep. So it was a really huge thing. Doing some really ambitious stuff with that. People always say to me that it's a bit like musical theatre and it's very theatrical. But to be honest with you, I kind of see it more as that I'm trying to do what you might see in a like arena show, or if you went to like a awards ceremony and they had like the big kind of publicity performances for that, like you see at the Brit Awards or the American Music Awards or Billboard Awards or whatever. It's that's the kind of thing that I envisage myself doing one day. and it's impossible for me to do stuff on that scale. But on a budget and on a shoestring, with a bit of imagination, I can aim for something that shows people what I'm capable of, and that is something that's not inaccessible to me in my own kind of capability. So it's more like I'm trying to do like a big arena show style show, but in a small theater. That's more like how I would describe it.
So much untapped potential.
I don't know. I think people have been leaving the taps running for too long, actually. I'm starting to run dry now.
Or have to recharge a bit.
Yeah, recharge the batteries, drink some more beer.
Going back to the album now, is there, I guess you've already mentioned that there is kind of a loose concept of all the songs. Like, is there an overarching theme or story that goes with it, with all the songs?
Well, I mean, ultimately, the whole album is an unraveling of me coming to terms with all the stuff that kind of led to me having bad mental health in the first place. Because although I had some quite serious events taking place towards the end of my breakdown, which kind of really stirred everything up, and initially I was kind of like pointing the finger and blaming certain things in my life at the time. But the fact is that, and this is probably the case for most people, we all have stuff in our past that we really bury and we really kind of run away from and we don't deal with. So this album really helped me to kind of dig up the past and unravel those really difficult things that I didn't want to have to face, that maybe I ran away from years and years ago. I mean, it goes all the way back to me being at school, being bullied. It goes back to me being a young adolescent and not being able to be totally honest with myself and the people around me about who I was sexually. There's it goes so deep. It runs right back through to my childhood. And so, this is probably the only time I'll ever write an album that's about me. Because it is. This album is like 100% about me. It's me writing about myself.
But it's a musical autobiography.
That might not happen again. I mean, like the next album I'm doing is a completely different thing. And it's going to be looking much more at socio-political elements to do with what the world's going through now. So it's not going to have "What Is the World Coming To" on it, but it's going to be a much broader thing that certainly is going to feel much more like a mirror held up to the world rather than just me kind of self-deprecating onto a record. So it's funny. We just do what we need to do at different stages in our lives. But that had to be the first record. It had to be that record. I needed my audience to hear these songs first, because I needed them to know who I was and what I'd been through, so that we could move forward into the next stage, really.
Yeah, that's great. It's all the power to you for getting yourself or writing the music and putting yourself out there like that.
Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't easy. It did take 2.5 years. So,
what would be your go-to or favorite songs on the record?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, it's difficult because they're all my babies, obviously.
Oh, you have to single out single one.
Yeah, I mean, it does vary a lot what my favorite is. I guess it really depends on my mood, and I guess that's a real credit to the eclecticism of the record. But I mean, if listening to Nice Boy always cheers me up, and I know it's the most poppy song on the whole album, and it's very, very influenced by kind of late 80s, early 90s pop music. So like there's a huge, in particular, Janet Jackson is a huge influence on that record. Yeah, like it gets me on my feet to have a bit of a boogie around and dance. It gets me moving, and it just cheers me up, and it's got a really positive vibe to it. So I think if I need a bit of a lift, I'll go straight for Nice Boy. But yeah, I think any of the songs, you know, I know that a lot of people are saying that By Name By Nature is their favorite, the title track. A lot of other people are saying that Love Not the Same, which is the track featuring Miss Amy Burks, a lot of people are saying that's their favorite. And I'm just happy that people are so passionate about the tracks at all. Like I don't mind which one's their favorite as long as one of them is.
I haven't been able to listen to the album yet, but my favorite from, like, I guess the singles that have been released is End of the Tunnel. And it's it's a quite like different kind of song because it's very subtle throughout. There's no like, it's more magnitude than a climax throughout in the song, and very atmospheric, and I like that atmosphere.
Right.
And the message behind it.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, this is why it's the closing track of the album, because it's kind of like the coming of age of all the other stuff. You know, you have all these things that kind of cause you anxiety or lead to depression, and you tear yourself apart, and then you come out of that, and because you've been through it, you can recognize the symptoms in other people. You can see that they need your help, and because you've been through it already, you are then in a position to say, look, I know that all you really need is the empathy of someone else who can say, look, I've been there, I know exactly what you're going through, and you're not alone. And that's all any of us really need when we're struggling the most. Well, it's not all we need, but it's a huge part of what we need. We need someone to empathize with us, and that makes such a difference to know that someone, not only do they care, but they understand what we're going through. So that is why it ends the album. That and it's like, it's just that positive lift. I know that, like, I mean, I wrote the bloody thing, and I've listened to it a million times because I've had to whilst producing it, and it still I make myself cry with that song. You know, like it just means so much to me, that record, and I think I'm very aware of how special it is, and I know that the reaction that I get from it myself seems to really match the reaction that other people get from it as well. So that's fantastic. You know, I think, you know, if I can touch someone with a message that is as important as that, then you know, I've, you know, really done something good for other people, and that's you know, really fulfilling. That's really a really nice thing that I can be proud of, you know.
Yeah, empathy is a big part of being able to reason and like get that help. And yeah, like I totally think it'll be a smash album. Yeah. I'm
Thank you.
going to be excited to listen to it all.
Good. Yes. Yes. Well, I look forward to hearing what you think of the other tracks as well.
Nice. One last thing I want to ask you. Well, instead of or my main last subject, we're talking right now during Pride Month, as we've alluded to at the beginning of this interview. What does Pride mean to you, especially in like this year with the pandemic going on?
Yeah. Okay. So it's quite interesting because, well, I think Pride means. I think the whole Pride Festival side of stuff means very different things to different people. For some people, it's an excuse for a party. But for a lot of people, it's a celebration of gay culture, and like certainly anything that's kind of lived outside of the mainstream or been oppressed for years is finally becoming that mainstream and becoming influential. And we're seeing a huge change in the world thanks to things like Pride giving a platform to people like us. Yeah. So I think it's a wonderful thing, and I got to perform at my local Pride last year, and I'd never been invited to perform at a Pride festival before, and it was great, and I got to play on the main stage, and like the whole town was absolutely ram-packed, and it was a great thing. I was so proud to do that, and I could see how much it meant to everybody there, because I live in the largest town that isn't a city in, I think, the whole of Europe. I think we have the highest population of all, but we've never really done our own Pride until the last couple of years, and that seems absolutely ridiculous. And we have such a big population. Of course, we should have been doing that. And I think it really became something I wanted to fight for more. When it was kind of coming out that the town was interested in doing a Pride, there was a lot of kind of research done by the town to see if it was a good idea, if people were going to be interested in it, what the attitudes within the town were going to be. I saw people being interviewed on the street saying all the typical things of, well, if there's a gay Pride, why shouldn't there be a straight Pride, and all this stuff. And I just think, how ignorant can you be? So yeah, things like that make me go, you know what, I'm gonna have my Pride, and I'm gonna celebrate it like hell, and I'm just gonna go for it, man. you like, this is important. It just is.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you fought for that.
Yeah. Well, I can't take the credit for fighting for it, really, but I definitely got involved.
Well, yeah. Yeah. So I guess ending off this interview, future plans. I guess moving forward from the album, which when is it going to be released again?
The 7th of August. So you can actually pre-save it now to your streaming sites. So you can pre-save it to your playlist. You can pre-order it on iTunes and Amazon and all those things if you want to pre-order it digitally. Or you can head straight to my website, which is thatjoepayne.com, and you can pre-order the vinyl now, which comes out on the 7th of August, or you can get a early access release of the CD now if you go there now. So yeah, please check it out. But yeah, 7th of August is when it comes out.
I guess you mentioned that your tour is being pushed off, and I guess you wouldn't be considering at this time. Well, I guess no one's considering doing overseas touring, because I would love to see you perform live here in Canada.
I'd love to come to Canada. I've never been to Canada, so I'd love to come over there and do something. Absolutely. maybe Toronto Pride or something.
Oh, that would be great. Awesome. What kind of what are the online social medias and platforms that we can find you at?
Oh yeah, it's just at That Joe Payne, or if things like Facebook, it's just facebook.com/That Joe Payne. So That Joe Payne, all one word, and it's the same for all the platforms, even YouTube. It's the same. So hopefully, it's quite easy to find. So please do come and follow me and say hello, and I'll say hello back because I always say hello back.
Nice. One last question. Do you have any words? Well, you've already been saying so much great, insightful stuff. What are your words of wisdom to us all?
Don't give up. Sorry. Oh man, words of wisdom. Oh my god. That's such a tricky one, because I mean the obvious thing is to just be true to yourself, do what you want, and like it sounds really cliche, but it's true. You just have to not live for anyone else's interests, and that doesn't have to be a selfish thing, but you will have so much more to offer by reaching your own potential. So don't let anything stand in the way of that.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe, for doing this with me. And it's great to finally be able to talk with you, at least this way.
Yeah, it's been really cool. Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to do it again sometime.
Yeah, for your next album. Yeah.
Yeah, which hopefully I won't have to wait 2.5 years for.
It'll be a wait worth waiting, or worth waiting for.
I hope so.
I'd like to end now on a song that I think shares a message of hope. It's for anyone that needs it. I hope you enjoy it. This is End of the Tunnel, and I've been That Joe Payne. Thank you very much for having me. Please, when you're feeling low, see, there's not far to go. 'Cause you know there's a light there at the end of the tunnel, dear. Tears are your protection. Let the rivers flow. Opposite directions are the way to go. Cause you know there's a light there at the end of the tunnel, dear. Yes, you know there's a light there at the end of the tunnel, dear. So please, 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 let us help. I know it's hard, but if you look too far find me. 'Cause we all need a little hope when it's too far to see. Find me at the end of the tunnel, dear. Silhouettes are waiting at the end. Don't you forget, those people are your friends. In the light at the end of the tunnel that'll end all nights now. So please, 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 let us help. I know it's hard, I've been there. But if you look too far, find me. 'Cause we all need a little help when it's too far to see. Find me at the end of the tunnel, dear. Oh, at the end, at the end, at the end of the tunnel, dear. At the end, at the end, at the end, at the end, at the end of the tunnel, dear. Oh, at the end, at the end, yeah. When it's too far to see, find me at the end of the tunnel, dear. Hey, Thank you very much. Have a lovely rest of Fusion.